You open your phone without noticing the moment your hand decides. There's no reason, no message waiting, no urgency you can name. It happens before thought, like a reflex you didn't agree to. You scroll for a second longer than you planned, then another second. Then you forget what you were escaping from. You tell yourself it's nothing, just a habit, just boredom. But your chest tightens anyway. You check your phone in silence, surrounded by people. You check it again when you're alone. The screen feels safer than the room you're in. Sometimes you don't even remember unlocking it. The movement is already finished before awareness arrives. And that's the part that should bother you. You think you're checking for updates. But what you're really checking is yourself. Am I missing something? You put the phone down, and the silence creeps back in. A thin, uncomfortable quiet you don't trust. So you pick it up again. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. You're not looking for information. You're looking for relief. Relief from waiting. Relief from feeling slightly behind. Relief from being alone with your own thoughts. The phone becomes a small door you keep opening. Behind it is noise, movement, proof that something is happening. Even if nothing meaningful is. You don't call it anxiety. You don't call it fear. You call it checking. You check while walking. You check while eating. You check while someone is talking to you. And part of you notices the distance growing. Between you and the moment. Between you and yourself. You promise yourself you'll stop after this one glance. Just one more look. But your thumb keeps moving. This is where most people misunderstand themselves. They think it's about discipline. They think they're weak. You've tried blaming yourself already. It didn't work. It only made the checking quieter and more automatic. Because this wasn't your personality. It was survival. A small, constant scan for safety. At some point, being unreachable felt dangerous. Silence felt like something bad was about to happen. So your body adapted. You didn't choose this behavior. Your nervous system did. It learned to stay alert. Every refresh is a question. Every notification is a possible answer. And the waiting in between feels heavy. You tell yourself you're multitasking. But your attention is fractured, pulled into dozens of unfinished moments. The phone doesn't calm you anymore. It just prevents the calm from arriving. And you feel that, even if you can't explain it. You miss things without realizing they're gone. Small sensations, long thoughts. And here's what you never noticed. You don't check your phone when you feel safe. You check it when you don't. Safe inside your body. Safe inside the moment. Safe inside yourself. When that safety disappears, your hand moves. Not to entertain you. To regulate you. You scroll to smooth something invisible. A tension you learn to ignore. A restlessness that never fully leaves. And this is the part no one warns you about. The more you check, the less you trust silence. The less you trust yourself. Your mind stays slightly ahead of the present. Always scanning. Always preparing. What saved you once is hurting you now. The adaptation overstayed its purpose. But it never learned when to stop. You feel tired without being physically exhausted. Your mind rarely fully rests. Even when your body does, you reach for the phone during pauses. Elevators. Lines. Moments meant to breathe. Those pauses start to feel unbearable. Not because they are empty, but because they are unguarded. You don't notice how often you escape the present. It feels normal now. Automatic. But something inside you keeps track. It knows the difference between distraction and peace. And it's getting tired. You wonder why your thoughts feel shallow lately. Why focus slips so easily. Why stillness feels loud. It's not because you're broken. It's because your attention learned to stay mobile. Always ready to move. This is not about willpower. And it was never about laziness. It's about what your system learned to do to cope. You adapted to a world that never fully rests. A world that rewards availability and punishes absence. And if this feels uncomfortably familiar, pause here, because the next part explains why it never changed and why it wasn't supposed to. Here's the painful part. The checking never stopped because it kept working, just enough to keep you functional. Every glance gave your nervous system a tiny answer. Not truth, but certainty. Your brain doesn't crave meaning first, it craves predictability, and your phone delivers it instantly. This is where the habit locks in. Uncertainty rises. You reach. Relief follows. Your body remembers this loop better than your conscious mind ever could. So it repeats it without asking you. You think you're choosing to check, but most of the time, you're already checked out. The decision happened earlier, and this explains why it never changed. Because you were trying to fix a nervous response with logic, and logic arrives too late. The urge isn't a thought. It's a sensation, a subtle pressure asking to be released. You don't scroll because you're curious. You scroll because your system wants to settle, even for a moment. But the calm never lasts, because the source of tension stays untouched. So the loop begins again. Here's the part that feels unfair. This pattern once protected you. It helped you stay connected, alert, prepared. At some point, missing information meant risk. Missing messages meant consequences. So your attention learned to hover. You didn't choose this. Your nervous system did. And it chose correctly for the environment you were in. But environments change faster than adaptations, and the body is slow to update its rules, especially the ones tied to safety. So now the same behavior feels hollow, restless instead of reassuring, draining instead of protective. This is not addiction in the way people simplify it. It's attachment to stimulation as regulation. Your system attached safety to motion, to updates, to constant proof that nothing is wrong. Stillness started to feel suspicious, like something you had to earn or survive. This is where the deeper loss hides. Not in the phone, but in your relationship with your own inner quiet. You stopped trusting moments with no input, no feedback, no confirmation. Your mind learned to outsource reassurance. To the screen, to numbers, messages, reactions, and slowly, your sense of self followed. Less internal, more responsive. This is the identity shift no one talks about. You begin to feel real only when engaged. Only when something pings back. The phone doesn't steal your attention. It replaces a function your body no longer performs alone. Self-soothing, and this is why willpower fails. You're not fighting a desire, you're interrupting regulation. Each time you resist, tension rises. Not because you're weak, but because the system has no alternative yet. So eventually, it pulls you back, not to distract you, but to stabilize you. This is why shame never helped. Shame adds threat, and threat increases the need to check. Your system isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it learned to do, in a world that never fully pauses. But here's the quiet truth. Relief isn't the same as safety, and your body knows the difference. Relief is fast. Safety is slow, and you've been trained to choose speed. This is where exhaustion comes from, not from doing too much, but from never arriving. Your attention keeps moving, your body keeps bracing, and rest stays theoretical. You don't need more stimulation. You need permission to stop scanning, but nothing in the environment gives it to you. So the phone becomes a stand-in, a false signal that says, you're up to date. You're not missing anything, but something important is still missing. Not outside, inside. The ability to be here without proof, without updates, without checking. This isn't about quitting your phone. It's about noticing what reaches for it first. The sensation before the movement, that sensation holds the real story. The unmet need, the old adaptation, and if you stay with that discomfort for a moment, you might feel something unfamiliar. Not urgency, but space. That space feels strange at first, unprotected, like standing still without armor. Your system doesn't trust it yet. It waits for the next signal, the next reason to move. But nothing happens. No disaster, no collapse, and that's new. Because for a long time, stillness felt dangerous. Now it's just unfamiliar. You notice how much effort went into staying alert, how much energy went into being reachable, how little went into being present. This isn't a realization you celebrate. It's quiet, almost sad, because you see it clearly now. You weren't distracted. You were protecting yourself. You stayed reachable because being absent once cost you something. Attention, safety, belonging, so you learned to never fully leave. Never fully rest. Never fully arrive. This wasn't weakness. It was intelligence under pressure. Adaptation doing its job. But adaptation doesn't know when the danger has passed. It waits for proof, and silence never provided it. So you kept checking. Not for information, for permission to exhale. And now, without the screen in your hand, you feel the weight of that breath. How shallow it's been. There's grief here. For the moments you never fully entered, the silence you never trusted. But there's also something else. A subtle relief. Not the fast kind. This relief doesn't come from checking. It comes from staying. From letting the moment remain unanswered. Your system notices this slowly. Without excitement, without reward, sounds. And for the first time in a while, nothing is asking you to move. Nothing is pulling you away. You're still here. Not updated. Not optimized. Just present. And maybe that's the quiet shift. Not becoming someone new, but realizing you were never meant to disappear this often.